Right. So if all you can go into this website, slido.com, and then enter #959687. That will be the code on which I'll be conducting certain polls and make you, what can I say, remain awake for the whole session. Networking is about connecting, and that's what we were failing here. So that's the first lesson, how not to connect when you're not prepared. So preparation is everything. So if you got to get connected with people, you got to know how to prepare for that. Right. So my name is Sandeep Padhye. I'm part of the Lead Voices team. And most of you know me as a host for Leadcast. How many of you have not heard about Leadcast? Okay, now you will know. Okay, that's a podcast I run for our community, and I bring out good stories about our leaders who have done something wonderful in their lives, and also a lesson we all can learn from their stories. And also I've talked to the course facilitators, and in fact, Professor Pfeffer also was there 2 weeks back on Leadcast. So do listen and subscribe to the podcast, because that actually will give you more stories and more connections. The reason for this particular session. A lot of people said, when I met a lot of people in the evening yesterday, were saying, "Oh, hey, Sandeep, I think I know you, you're famous," and stuff like that. So all good things. And then, how did you do that? And I said, I started Leadcast because I believe in networking, but I also believe in value networking, which means how do I connect to some core key people with whom I can have a long-lasting relationship. That doesn't mean that if you're not on Leadcast, I'll not be friends with you or not connect with you. What I mean to say is that it's a great example of how you should filter your network and make sure that you make the right connects for your life, career, professional and personal. Leadcast started with that idea that, hey, if we have 3,000 plus people, how do I connect with 100 plus before I get out or graduate out of Lead and make some valuable connections across globe? I said the stories may resonate with different people because of the different skill sets they bring on table, but what it is giving me, the process is giving me connecting with you all with a 30 minutes of session before that session, which helps me to know you more, and it also helps me to understand this person and see how I can connect that person to somebody else who might be in need of that particular skill sets or profession in which they want to get into. So that was the need on how Leadcast started. Now, was that something which came overnight or midnight when I thought about it? No, it's a process. I've been in this, I wouldn't say business, but I have been doing this for past many years. I run a foundation which has got 16 countries globally, people connected from my community, and we have close to 4,000 plus people there. And so I am a founder director of that company too, which will show you, and I will talk about how that happened and why I'm still working and loving that. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to have that network, but I think what network means, it means different things to different people. And what I want to do is, the first poll to start is, okay, before you go into this networking mode,
Can you give the code again?
959687, it's on the screen. Thank you. Okay. So our first question there, it's an open text. I do not want you to write an essay about yourself, but think about it that what is that one unique thing about you as a brand? What is that one unique thing which describes you? It can be your human trait, it can be your professional skill, or it can be, something unique, saying, oh, I have a breed of a dog which probably nobody has in this room. Or I use an app which probably not many people know about it. So that's something, think about it and write it. Now, the fun part of the technology is I'm not sure if I will be able to show the results here, but I intend to have a keyword cloud. So let me try if I can show that. One second. Are you able to log into the poll? Are you able to see the poll?
Yep.
Interesting, the results are not coming out. Okay. There is one, there's two. Connections, branding. Now let me go back to my screen and I'm sure it will show here. Show it here. If it doesn't, I'm going to show it here too. There you go. Have you all done? I don't think so. Not many results have come in. One big thing which is coming out is obviously connection. So networking means connection for most of you, and that's exactly what I think it is. How many of you believe that if I connect to LinkedIn, and I've seen some people, I think we are connected on LinkedIn, right? So if that is the question you need to ask someone, that means you are not connected to that person, right? Because if you don't know that person well, then obviously, and first thing is if you are just connecting that person only on LinkedIn network, it's very, very clear that you're not really building that bond, but it's just the network of the network you're trying to share. Is that right or wrong? There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers there. But we'll talk about why it matters and why you should be just focusing upon the connections you want to make when you are actually talking to different people on the different things. Right. So I think I'll take pause here, and I want to believe that this 11 people have participated. So
It's updating. 32.
Yeah,
is it not?
32 now. And a few people still need the code. What's the code? One more time.
959687. It's at the top of the screen. There you go.
There you go. Good. Sorry. Thanks for correcting that. I thought it was. This is a interactive exercise, so I'm not sharing something which you don't know, but at the same time, I'm bringing some perspectives here for all of us to share amongst each other. And what does networking mean for all of us? So there are some good words here: trust, awareness, obviously. Then in terms of, I would say, sharing value, that's very important when you're building a network with someone. Now let me go to the next exercise. Okay, and what I can do is, let's talk about this particular topic as we move forward in terms of the understanding of what is more. Before we network, I think most important part I feel in my experience is that you should know yourself. As in, when you want to make some meaningful conversations with people, you really need to know yourself. And I think self-exploration is very important before you talk to someone. Do I know the content which this person is interested in? Do I think I can help this person if I connect with him in the long run? Will his experience be valuable to me if I want to achieve a certain goal? You cannot network and connect hours and hours in a day. There's a limited time you can spend with people. And if you want to make some meaningful connections, you have to spend time. There is no alternative. Whether it's in person or whether it's virtual. Either you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, you are still spending time, which means if you want to really make use of it, you need to know yourself, okay, what are my needs? So when I go everywhere, this has worked for me. And and this is no academic thing, but I make a list of people I want to make sure that I meet. And I make a list of people, and definitely I meet and talk to them, and I actually filter them before I come here. That doesn't mean that, when I speak to other people, I might find something more interesting, but you have to make a list of people whom you really want to meet and connect. Now, the world is changing. Now we are coming back into in-person meetings. So it was very hard in a virtual world to get that attention from somebody whom you really want to connect. Now, this connection doesn't mean that, you should connect with, just with the top people, celebrities and all that. I'll talk about that later on, why you should just focus on people in the room and not the king for whom there, there's always a queue to take a picture. That picture is the only thing for your Facebook or LinkedIn to show that I met that guy, but if he is not going to connect with you, then you really need to think about, should I stand for an hour in that queue, or should I actually have a one-on-one conversation with people in the room? And that's where I believe the real focus should be. Another thing I find out, and I have seen this, pretty common, and all of us have this common trait. We only talk to people whom we know from our past, or we, whenever we meet them in person, we only just connect with them because it's very easy to start a conversation and then have that extra glass of beer if you have some more things to talk about. But that's where I think yesterday evening also we had a good conversation, good in-person meeting. People came from there as well. And that doesn't mean that today evening you just hop from one to the other and not stay with them. Don't create that miscommunication amongst yourself. But important part is that, if you are really interested in networking, don't spend time with only one person or on one corner, and then then you don't need to go into events to make people friends. You can just have a one-on-one meeting, one-on-one coffee, and then you're good with that. When you're talking to different people, you have to make sure that you can take that person along with you, but sometimes you get just biased with what other people are thinking. So it's better to talk to different people and then create a set of people whom you want to have discuss. I've seen that working very often, and I'll tell you, I do that, and it's a good practice to have if you are in a large conference. I lead a practice in my company, and obviously we meet a lot of customers, and it's very difficult for me to then talk to one person or other when we go to a conference. So if I want to have a one-on-one, I make sure that we book a room and we talk to them one-on-one. But when it comes to networking, if I'm in that big event, I make sure that I at least say hello to everyone who may want to meet me. And one of the things I'll tell you, and this is a great example, give first and receive later. So never ever think that, oh, hey, this guy has a great thing to offer to me. Let me receive first, and then I will give him if I think it's my worth of time. Never do that. I'll tell you why. And I think I can see a lot of Indian hands here. Can you all raise hands who are Indians here who know Sachin Tendulkar, right? So most of you are here, so it's good to know. So I can use that example. He's like a Tom Brady for people who follow NFL. Pretty big guy. You can't reach this type of people if you just say, hey, I want to meet that person. He's a guy with a billion people following him. The only way I did, and I happened to spend 2 days, and of course 2 valuable nights with him discussing about cricket, which I'm a great fan, but I organized an event for his father. I did everything in London. I booked the biggest arena in London, O2 Arena as we call it, where Michael Jackson hosted a concert. I booked that venue to have a dedicated program for his father's music album. And the entire donation was given to the charity which he likes to donate to. That guy costs usually for one event $1 million. And he came for that event free. So the only message I want to give is that, if you start thinking about giving, then obviously the reciprocation comes. Doesn't matter who that person is. It is very important that you connect with them personally. I had to go through his CEO and other people, but he just made it very simple when I was not asking for anything for me. I'm saying, yeah, if I'm doing something for your father, obviously nobody's going to say no to it. And that's where I think that's a lesson I learned, which was very important for all of us. Then most important for you is obviously connect with super connectors. How many of you believe that you are a super connector, and how many of you think that you know? I mean, this group definitely knows Purnima Gopi, right? So I want to call her as a super connector, given that she talks to so many people, she knows so many people. So we got to know the super connectors who may have these direct or indirect contacts. If you are really looking for connect within organizations, these are all not new things. These are all things which you must have experienced. But what you are going to do now is an exercise after this, which I would like you to just apply all these principles and see what you're going to do here. That will be the next 20 minutes to spend. Most importantly, the conversation which you're going to have is not about yourself. It's a balance. You got to listen first, as I said, and then tell what you can bring on table. Listen, understand, and then be compassionate about what the other person's feelings are and what they think about their own professional life, what they can offer, and then only start talking about you and yourself. And last but not the least, which I'm pretty sure we will do tonight, and most of you have done the power course, never eat alone. So if you are in a party, if you are anywhere, make sure that you're on a dining table where you are with at least one more person so that you can share the information. So here's the exercise now. And I want to create some enthusiasm because networking is not boring lectures. It's more about you and yourself talking to people. This is a reference, Deep Bump is a reference to Keith's philosophy on how to connect with each other. So I request a group of two, when you're sitting here, just for 2 minutes, one person will talk to the other person, talk about yourself, talk about your brand, talk who you are, and let the other person absorb, listen. And I would like the other person to ask as many questions as they can and understand the other person, and then do the vice versa. But I don't want to do the vice versa, like you talk to the same person, just flip to the next person. So that, and then what we want to do is create something which I will talk about the branding and how the brand awareness gets created. So I don't want to open the can here because I want to see what kind of experiences come out of this small exercise. So I think we can put a timer here and we just spend 2 minutes each other talking to each other. Talk about yourself. So that assume that you are a brand, you need to be sold. Now flip the sides, please. Switch. Switch. Now, whoever you have spoken to now, please go to the next person. I'll talk about your story. If you have listened to his story, now he has to tell a story. Last 30 seconds. Okay, take your seats now. I think we're done. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Ramesh, let's begin the session. Who wants to volunteer? Who wants to volunteer to talk about what they've heard from someone? And you can answer it in this way. Do you think that the person you spoke, yeah, come here? Yeah.
Local and social groups. Then the first one for an influencer. So he is also an influencer through his connections. One of the
Is it that he told you or you inferred from what he told you?
both. And one of the interesting thing about him is that he is an actor, and his passion is acting, and he could fulfill that passion to some extent by connecting to directors.
Right. So from your perspective, when you have connected with him, right, you as an individual, now you bumped on him today on a party or whatever this session is. Do you think you would like to come, and no offense, don't take it personally, what value you could extract from that connection about your own personal needs?
Well, I like the last one, which is that he is an onstage actor, because my passion is not on the acting side, but my passion is the music side of the house. So it kinds of very self-fulfilling, where we kind of complement each other from that skill sets, and it more towards the mindfulness part of the equation.
Do you think he represented you as a brand correctly?
Yes.
So when you go to the other person, do you think you will be able to basically absorb all that information? But let's say Umesh comes to you and say that, hey, I'm a director, I'm looking for a good actor.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the bottom line I'm trying to create here is that, what is important is, I mean, we are in a setup environment. So obviously we are all thinking about, okay, whether I'm super influencer, connector, right, all that, because the terms are here with us. We have to extract that information in a way that we should see what value, right? So know yourself, what you really want from it. And then when you're talking about yourself to others, you got to make sure that your brand is well represented. Okay. And that's a very important thing. Okay. You need to talk about yourself in a way that people can understand what value you're bringing onto you. So that's the one point. So anybody else want to talk about one more example?
I don't have an example, but in the 2 minutes of conversation, we spoke about a lot of personal things. I don't think we were going at it at, hey, let me make sure that I represent my brand. Because it is more about just quickly getting to know you as an individual at a quick personal level versus trying to do an elevator pitch about my own brand. So I don't know how to address that.
Yeah. So obviously, there are different ways you connect with people in different setups, right? So in a professional and a personal environment, I mean, if you are professionally connecting with people and not doing name throwing or not putting the words which represent yourself, then you've got to create that vocabulary for yourself and have that ready and have some of the stories and conversations ready so that you can talk about that when you're talking to these people. That's very important. So other things has to, because if you do not show a genuine interest in somebody else's conversations and just trying to promote your brand, that is also not going to work. You have to use the words and conversation in such a way that it represents what that person wants to hear rather than what you want to tell. And that's where I think the skill one has to acquire, that position yourself in such a way that the storytelling is so important and compelling that the other person will listen into and say that, hey, this guy has, or this person has that ability to listen to what I'm trying to do. And then you subtly put that message to them. So being passionate listener is a very important skill too. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I could share about,
Yes.
take a stab at it.
Yes.
I had the pleasure of meeting with Sheila, and I'm an influencer, and I believe she's an influencer, but we both are eager to become super connectors. Sheila is extremely ambitious, a young leader in the lead program at Stanford, and within her first couple quarters, she was able to apply the skill sets that she's learned within the program, and was recently promoted to director at her organization, which is ADT. So that's Sheila.
So one of the lessons, I think, from what you have said and described, I would like to also shift gears in terms of what Professor Pfeffer has also taught in our course is about power of asking. So here I am at lead cast and thinking, okay, whom should I invite? Right, we started with Chinchilla, but the second person I was thinking, okay, Professor Pfeffer, why not, right? The guy who actually seeded that thought in my mind that asking works. First time I asked him when the live presentation, probably didn't understand the question, and I was like, okay, my course colleague was with me, said, I don't think he get it. I don't think he would like to come on lead cast. I said nothing. I said, okay, we don't do anything about it. For 2 weeks or 2 months, I didn't do anything about it because you have to give some time to people to come back to you. Then I again was almost on the verge of trying to call Professor. But before that, I had already interviewed Megan, Most of you know Megan, right? Megan Peirce. So I heard from her that this is probably not the right time to call professor because he's in midst of something. I don't want to go into that. So I waited another month. You won't believe this. I gave that enough time and I wrote an email on Monday morning and I got a response on Wednesday evening that yes, we will do it on this Saturday. And I happened to make that happen. So point I'm trying to make here is that, when the power of asking definitely works. We heard that in morning session as well, that collaboration, it does work. You have to believe in it to say that, and most important is what are you really trying to achieve, right? I mean, there's no point in calling a celebrity. There's a term I'm going to use later on that you do not have to pursue celebrities or you don't have to be a ankle beggar to get somebody's time if you don't need it. You should only talk to people where you think the reciprocation will happen, where people understand. And I have seen most of the time that it works. And it is just about we framing it properly. It's very important that we frame that question properly, that the answer will never come as no. I also am part of the startup mentorship. So when we, and again, I want to talk about my personal brand, but since I mentor, one of my teams have entered into Shark Tank India, and then they happened to win. All the 3 investors invested in them. The only lesson I told them is, when you look into their eyes, you have to make sure that they believe that you are more, trustworthy. And then we created a story of one of the girls, which actually resonated with what they were looking for in a woman power. And then I can share that link at a later stage, but that made one of the Shark Tank persons that I have to invest. They not only invested, but they invested more than what they wanted for. So point is that, if you have a story to tell, if you want something from someone, trustworthiness is very important. And trustworthiness, to gain the trust, sometimes you have to be vulnerable. And you have to see that other persons believe that you have accountability in whatever you do. So that's few of the lessons I talk about. And as some of the quotes, I don't think we can exist without having a relationship. So connections are very, very important. I've heard somebody saying, oh, it's so hard, and do I really need to? I think anybody who has taken the power course should believe, and now I don't think that's a story in it, but we have to believe that we cannot work and create great assets or great companies or great enterprises unless we network. Even in Lisa's startup, we have Sophia as well, right? We highly recommend that there has to be a co-founder when you're being in a startup. Without having someone to share with, the relationships are not, you will not be able to build bonds everywhere where you really need to, and you really need some people, maybe not be of your same skill sets, who can help you grow. So that's why I thought there are certain statements one need to make sure that we register in our mind that we have to live with certain people and make that relationships. This is what I was talking. So don't try to network with people for the sake of it. There are people who will just say, hey, and I've seen people putting pictures with celebrities, and just don't try to harm that, because I feel meaningful relationships can only be built if it is built on compassion. So unless you have gratefulness and mindfulness is what I also believe in. And you show that genuine relationship with people, people won't connect with you. And then if you just take a picture and then go away, what's the point of just spending that time hours taking that picture? Unless your family loves that person and think, okay, I got a picture, and then you can. But that's not really the networking is about. That's not really the connection at all. It is good. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's important when you're spending time from networking perspective. My personal experience, I spoke about Leadcast. I spoke about my community network I have built in, and our last 3 jobs have all come from my networks. When I say network, my connects, and they can be weak or strong. So, but they were there, And I don't have to now necessarily, it's not that there's a good job you always apply, but we all know we have come to an age where jobs don't come to us just because they are, they are advertised. They're not the jobs which we are looking for. We're looking for a very different job profile nowadays in the market. We're looking for different people, different partners, and they will not come unless somebody is feeling or having a trust in you to recommend you to their organization. And that's where I think we have to filter this LinkedIn. You may be having 1,500 connects, but please make sure that you start making some real good list of people whom you really want to be in touch with, or at least follow them, and make sure you build that brand. So these are a few things I thought I will share. So again, you got to be generous. That's what I said earlier. You got to offer first, then expect people to respond to. Be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable. We heard that in the morning, right? People management, and I think I thought, oh, professor is taking half of the steam out of my conversation, but I think he is what he is, right? I'm just a learner here, but I think vulnerability is very important. It's very important that you show that eagerness to seek help. So final takeaways: be interesting to other people so that the conversations remain unique, and broadcast your brand. So there's no more importance than to promote your brand if you want to promote yourself. I mean, we have heard professors saying to us, Professor Pfeffer, that if you are joining Lead, then obviously call yourself Sandeep 2.0, whatever, and then start rebranding if you're in the same organization. That's what I've started doing, and I can tell that it made a lot of difference to me. I changed my job within 4 months by just perceiving myself very different from who I was. With that, I will close it with very personal story here again, because when you are such a good connector, which I want to claim, it resonated with my wife. So here is I am, and I don't think ever, unless I go into acting or I have my own brand which I can put my advertise, I will never see myself on a billboard. How many of you have been on a billboard, unless you're an actor or someone? Do you have anyone who was there on the billboard when any of your family members, hey, look at my brother, sister, cousin, neighbor? No, right? My wife was there. And she proved it to me that, you can create your own brand. She was of the type who never thought about, creating her own brand and investing into it. She started, and it didn't come out because, she's she's not a model, but she worked for a Dress for Success in non-profit organization, which is a well-known organization for women empowerment. And she first gave it to them without expecting anything from them. She works for IBM and help people create some ecosystem for themselves so that they can, attend interviews, do some mock interviews, and how to present themselves and all that. It's all about that. And voila, they called her one day and say that, hey, we are celebrating Women History Month, and you will be the first person on billboard. And imagine the joy she had on the 1st of March. So with that, I conclude. But as I said, promote your brand, and that works very well. Thank you very much. I hope you liked any questions, and we can take on this. I know we are just on time, but
I have a question. So when you are networking, right? How do you know when it's too much time talking to somebody, right? Maybe you're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When it's time to, okay, let's move on to talk to the next people. And how do you do it in a way that is not rude, right?
This is never a silver bullet. Again, as I said, if the conversation is going in a direction where you are able to extract value from them, and the other person is, right? Now, if you have to, it's a body language, right? You can immediately make out if some other person is trying to look at somebody and say, can I grab a coffee, or can I just come back, or, start looking at phone. you know that it's not going anywhere. So, I mean, there are certain rules, but there are no rules as well, right? So you got to, body language is something one has to understand as well. Is there anything, and I want to make sure that everybody's silent, but this is a networking event, right? So I don't know, it's something, that's why I give that 2 minutes time so that you can talk to each other. So this is not about me, as I said, it is not a one-way conversation I want to have, so feel free.
So you said that you always have to give before you ask, right? Depending, you meet so many people in your walks of life, especially even here. Are you always going to be in the position to give? And does that mean that that networking effort will fail, or can it become more? Can it become, while networking has to mutually benefit, I agree with that. But could it also be that you are finding a way to address either your needs? I'm not wanting this to be selfish. I'm just saying that maybe you in that particular relationship may not be a profound giver. You may be the one who is receiving.
Absolutely right. So again, I want to say this. When we say that give first and receive later, it's very important to understand that you do not have to receive it from the same person. Because you are creating a brand of yourself that you are just a giver. Okay. Now that brand means that everybody knows that this person is a giver. Once you create that impression or that perception, you will someday receive from someone, not from the same set of people. So don't try to invest into somebody just because you think you can get something out of it. Because they may have certain links which may try to give it back to you, depending on how you express yourself and what your needs are.
So you talked quite a bit about targeted or high probability networking. That's why you see it, right? So you're targeting who you want to meet because you don't want to meet random people. And there's other category where someone else wants you. Just call it social networking. That you may not want that person. You don't want to talk to me, but I want to talk to you. How do you make sure that you are providing the value back to me? Because if you don't see value in me, you can sort of like walk away.
Yeah, again, so I think this is where some of the subtle differences are in terms of understanding, okay, if you want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you. No, I don't think you as an influencer, connector, or somebody who wants to create value from somebody else should even have that feeling without talking to that person. So if you come to me, I'll certainly talk to you. The only reason is that you have to make sure that you make a genuine attempt, because you never know who has a value hidden within himself or within his network, which will be of great strength to you at a later stage. So never go into a conversation saying that, okay, oh, I am XYZ and this one is ABC and working in film industry, and I am a IT gig. What do I do with this, right? So that doesn't work like that, because there are certain lessons from his own experiences or his network can benefit you. I can tell you, I know certain film industry people where I just connected, and then they happened to start a OTT platform, and then they needed some technology skills. And so I helped them, connected them to a company which actually then helped that platform for them. So we just don't know who can help whom. Right. I think, thank you very much. I think it was really great.